Hi people. So there is a video that's emerging that's sort of doing the rounds now on various news sources, or rather a video in question. And I'm going to talk about this case because it's the sort of thing that, it gets attention for a while and it's kind of forgotten. But it's something that happens far too much. Not the specific thing, but my gut feeling is abuse of power by the police. Now, before I continue, I'm going to read two sources. I'm going to read the report from the Daily Telegraph, which was also shared on Yahoo News, and it's been reported in numerous other sources, but I'll use that one for convenience sake. And I'm also going to read out the response of West Yorkshire Police, the force that is involved in this incident. So they can't say that their perspective, their side hasn't been aired, because it has. And that's directly from their Facebook page, so that's their own, response. So without further ado, I'm just going to read out the report, um, and then share my thoughts on this. Now, before I continue, actually, I should say some of my subscribers may be autistic, and this involves a young woman, a girl, teenage girl who is autistic. So I'd be interested in hearing your perspective on this. I From friends, I have a little bit of perspective on autism, but not. I can't say it's something I know very well. So you'd be in a better position than me to perhaps comment on that side of it. But suffice to say, it meant the young woman involved was vulnerable. Um, okay, so I'm just going to read out this report. It's in the Daily Telegraph, and the report is by Alex Barton. Police arrest autistic teenager who said officer looked like her lesbian nana. Now, I'm going to read this whole thing out. It's, I think, important. Of course, the Daily Telegraph saying you need to subscribe to. I had the link up. Just bear with me. I'll try and get another source that I can read directly from. I think the BBC also has a resource. While I'm finding that, basically this is about an autistic girl who was drunk, and she was brought home initially by West Yorkshire Police. So that seemed like, okay, they're doing the responsible thing. Her mother had said that she was in an intoxicated state in Leeds City Centre. They brought her home, but basically she got arrested for the statement about the officer looking like a lesbian. Now, the police are deeming this to be a homophobic hate crime, and that's the whole angle that they're going down. But I think it raises a lot of questions. I don't think the girl meant it maliciously, and I think it's quite clear that she was vulnerable. Um, if you just bear with me, I was going to read out the Telegraph article, but unfortunately, it's now a paywall. Just bear with me a second. I think it's important to get the details here. Probably should have checked this before uploading the video, but I've started now. So, let's see if this source is similar. Like a similar, I mean obviously the important things, important details. Yeah, I think that will be okay. And this report is by Haley Coyle and PA Media via the BBC. Okay, police face complaint over arrest of autistic Leeds teenager. Police have received a complaint after a woman said her autistic daughter was arrested for saying a female officer looked like her lesbian nana. A video uploaded to TikTok by her mother showed the girl being detained by 7 officers outside her home in Leeds early on Monday the 7th of August. 7 officers. Officers said she was taken home after reports that she was intoxicated and at risk in Leeds city centre. West Yorkshire Police said the video showed a limited snapshot of events. The incident was filmed by the teenager's mother and posted with the caption, "This is what police do when dealing with autistic children." I don't have access to TikTok, so I've seen this. I watched the video that the Daily Mail had, which is her being arrested, just for context there. I haven't seen the original video, but I've seen it, reported in secondhand sources. Um, My daughter told me the police officer looked like her nana, who is a lesbian. The officer took it the wrong way and said it was a homophobic comment. It wasn't. The officer then entered my home. My daughter was having panic attacks from being touched by them, and they still continued to manhandle her. A West Yorkshire police spokesman said a 16-year-old had been arrested on suspicion of a homophobic public order offence, but said the footage only provides a very limited snapshot of the circumstances of this incident. And I'm going to read out their official response in a minute. The video shows two officers in the hallway of the family's home, while the girl sits in a corner next to a cupboard, clearly scared, and I've seen this footage. The mother is heard saying, "It's not a homophobic remark." She said, "I think she's a lesbian like my nana," so it's a statement as opposed to a malicious insult. She later says, "You're going to remove her for what? You're bothered," she said the word lesbian. Her nana is a lesbian. She's married to a woman. She's not homophobic. More officers arrive, and the girl is seen screaming and she is taken away. West Yorkshire Police Assistant Chief Constable Oz Khan said, "West Yorkshire Police takes its responsibilities around the welfare of young people taken into custody around neurodiversity very seriously. We also maintain that our officers and staff should not have to face abuse. We're working to keep our community safe." So this is actually an abridged version of their response. "We are fully reviewing the circumstances of this incident and ask that people avoid reaching any conclusions about it solely on the basis of the social media video." The force added that the girl was subsequently interviewed with an appropriate adult and had been released on bail pending further inquiries. West Yorkshire Police also cited that they involved the CPS in this, just for context. Now, there's a lot to break down here. Firstly, this thing about not rushing to judgment based on the social media video. Well, I agree with that in principle, insofar as a video does only show part of something that happens. And I've long said that, on social media, that people do need to be cautious with that. But the police have said nowhere that this girl was posing a violent threat. They're talking about, we take the welfare of our officers seriously. But the girl wasn't being violent. She wasn't being threatening. Now, like I say, I don't know a lot about autism, but friends have told me who have autism that sometimes one of the characteristics of that is you would say something that is kind of just comes to mind that may be socially inappropriate for other people, but it's not meant maliciously. So my understanding of that is the girl just happened to think that this officer looked like her nana. So simply stating the fact wasn't meant as a homophobic insult. And quite frankly, even if it was, did this really require 7 officers? Now, if the girl was self-harming, if she was in an intoxicated state and she was vulnerable, then initially the police done the right thing by bringing her home. So no issue there. That's responsible. The problem I have with this, and I think the problem a lot of people have, is firstly the fact that they arrested her over, a non-violent situation. Secondly, the overreach. 7 officers, most of them men, to arrest a 16-year-old girl? Really? I mean, you have to question if their officers are less hypersensitive. And, what's troubling, and it doesn't say it in the BBC report, it said it in the Daily Telegraph report, and I heard this directly in the video that the Daily Mail posted. When the mother says, "My daughter's autistic," the female officer clearly says, "I don't care. I don't care." Now, I think she should face disciplinary matters. I really do. Um, if I can just quote a little bit more of what the West Yorkshire Police official response is, if you just bear with me a second. The BBC gave an abridged version of that. But they said that this is being investigated. They can't make further comments. It's being currently assessed by West Yorkshire Professional Standards Directorate, so they can't comment further except that they take issues around neurodiversity very seriously. We also maintain that our officers and staff should not have to face abuse. Abuse. That's a very specific word. But to me, that's them covering their backside, basically. Oh well, or our officer was being abused, so that gives us a right for 7 officers to arrest an autistic young woman. And I'd like to know who the appropriate adult is. Is that a social worker? Is it a solicitor? Who's the appropriate adult? Because if it's another police officer, no, not good enough. The police protect their own, and I think there's evidence of that. So I think this is a pretty serious incident. Why did it take 7 officers? Why was the girl arrested? And why is it that they're so hypersensitive? I mean, the police do face dangerous situations. You know, they face drug dealers, they face terrorists, they face violent gang members. Um, so there are circumstances where absolutely would they would have to show caution. But I just don't see anything in the video that I saw that would justify the response that they took. The Daily Telegraph also quote the local Conservative MP for Outwood, um, said that she was disgusted by this and she'll be raising questions. That's a Conservative MP, so this isn't even a left-right issue. Um, I'm going to wrap this up. I don't know how much space I've got, but basically, I do not trust the police response to this. I think they're saying what they think they have to say, but I think it's quite clear that this officer was using her hypersensitivity as an excuse. I mean, a homophobic hate crime. This wasn't someone, who's shouting out abuse. This was a girl who just made a comment that was not meant in a malicious way. And if the police are interpreting that as a homophobic hate crime, that raises very serious questions. And I think once again, it shows that so-called, hate crime legislation is rife for abuse. It's not the first time the police have responded this way. Other forces have done it as well, where they've, harass people in their own homes for something they've said on social media. I think there's very serious questions about this. Um, and it's something the Blair government brought in, increasing sort of policing of words online. Um, I think there's very serious questions about it. I think the police will use this as an excuse to abuse their power. And I think when this review is concluded, if they don't make an apology, it raises serious questions. The problem here, or the risk here, is this will just get forgotten, and it's just yet another in a very, very long catalogue of police abusing their power. I'm sick of it, and I think anyone with a conscience should be sick of it. I don't trust the police um, based on the number of situations like this that basically get swept away, and no one is held to account. It's always the same where you get this sort of situation where there's an abuse of power, it gets exposed, the police make some grovelling apology or sometimes not even any apology, and the officer or officers responsible get away with it. In my opinion, this officer should face disciplinary matters if she is abusing that sort of legislation just to basically say, to arrest anyone that she perceives to be insulting her, even when they're not. Um, I mean, if she is so hypersensitive, how is she going to deal with violent criminals? You know, it really raises questions. I can imagine some drug dealer is going to say a lot more colourful things than this, or some drunk football hooligan, or violent gang members. This young woman wasn't showing any violence. She was clearly scared, and having them arrest her, no doubt, would have made her suffer a nervous breakdown. I'm not talking clinically speaking, but it would have really distressed her. And clearly, they say they take um, neurodiversity very seriously. That's questionable. If they did, they would have handled this in a much better way. They would have been listening to the mother when she said that. So why didn't they listen? Their response just poses a lot more questions than answers. I'm going to wrap this up, but I would like to see them face real heat over this. I would like to see the officer responsible face disciplinary matters, and I'd like to see them make an apology to the girl and her mother, and also publicly state what they're going to do to review their training into people with autism. I was going to say young people, anyone. Um, this is not to say that autistic people, should be above the law or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but clearly there should be some sensitivity in dealing with these situations. And clearly in this case, there was none. So the fact that the body cam was on, it doesn't really. I've seen the video, at least the part where she's being arrested. And I'll say this: if there is more to this, if the girl was being violent, then maybe there was more to it. But actually, they themselves cite the reason as the girl being homophobic, not you're being violent or something like that. They actually say that's why they're arresting her. So that speaks volumes. It's a disgusting abuse of power. Shame on West Yorkshire Police. Shame on the officers responsible. I think that officer should be named and shamed, quite frankly. She is not fit to serve the public. Let me know your thoughts. I'll put links to these sources as always.